Hey guys, it's Eric. So I'm here in my kitchen and there's an issue with our RO system, our reverse osmosis drinking water system here on the main sink. First I'm going to show you guys the problem, and then I'm going to move forward with replacing all the filters as well as the RO system's membrane and repressurizing the RO system tank. If you have a reverse osmosis system, this video should be helpful for doing basic maintenance on that. Alright guys, here's the issue. Here's our RO faucet, and when I turn it on, you'll see the pressure is really good at the beginning, and then very quickly it starts to slow down to a dribble. Now this is all going on while the tank is still very full of water. As you can see now, it's barely coming out. So it'll fill a glass about half full, and then it slows down to just a drip. There you go. And that pressure should be steady for a lot longer than that. And now if you look, it's just very, very slow. So that's the problem we're going to be fixing today, as well as replacing the filters, because I don't think they've been replaced in at least 2 years. Okay, this is what the RO system looks like under the sink. You'll see that there's a big tank right here that holds the water. And then you've got your 3 filters, or your 3-stage filtering right there. And then you've got a membrane casing at the top there. So what we're going to do is, I have this filter kit. It includes all the filters as well as the new membrane. But the first thing we're going to do is we're going to shut off the water, and then we're going to repressurize the tank. Then we'll move forward with replacing the filters. The first step in repressurizing the tank is to shut off the water to the tank and disconnect it. So there's a fitting right here. This is where the water comes in. First we're going to turn off the water here. This is what's called a ball joint. When this little ridge is facing the direction of the flow of water, it means it's on. When it's 90 degrees to the flow of water, that means it's off. So I shut it off here, and now I'm going to shut off the water to the RO system, which is deeper in here, and I'll show you that. Okay guys, so I have to reshoot the removing of the RO tank, because for some reason when I did it the first time it didn't record. So I will show you guys how to remove the RO tank now. It's actually very easy to do. If you look back here, this is what's called a needle valve, and you turn this clockwise to turn off the water to the system. So you just turn this clockwise until it doesn't turn anymore. That'll shut off water to the RO system. Once that's completed, you can follow this tube from the top of the RO tank all the way up here to the stage 4 filter. And on this one you can just unscrew this tube and it will be disconnected. On some RO systems this is a quick release joint, and basically you'll just push the ring down and then pull the tube out, and that'll free the tank. It's only one pipe connection, and you have to shut off the water to the system in order to do it. Okay, so there's no more water coming out of the tube here, but the tank is still really full. So what we're gonna have to do at this point is, there's a valve on the front of the tank. Let me rotate it. Okay. There's a valve on the front of the tank right here. It's covered by this blue cover. So we're gonna unscrew this, and then you'll see a little inlet here. This is like a bicycle pump inlet, and that's exactly what we're going to use to pump the rest of the water out. Okay guys, I had to actually change pumps because I realized we had a pump that had a broken tip, so it wasn't working very well. So as you can see, as I'm pumping, the water's coming out. It's continuing to empty, and we'll just do this until the entire tank is empty, and it'll take some time. Alright, now that the tank is empty, I have to check the pressure inside. So we'll just use a digital air pressure gauge. You need something that'll detect low pressures because you're only looking for about 7 psi. Alright, we're at 7.5, which actually isn't too bad. We'll go ahead and leave it at 7.5. Alright, we're at 7.5 psi. That's good enough. The tank is good. We're going to go inside now and replace the filters and the membrane. Okay, Now that we've emptied the tank, it's time to replace the filters. There's 3 stages of filtering here, represented by each of these 3 cylinders, and we're going to start with this cylinder here on the right. I've pulled the RO system out from under the sink. You only have to disconnect one pipe to do this. I'll show you how to disconnect quick joints when I put it back on, because they're pretty easy to do. In order to remove the filters, there are two ways you can do it. If you can't do it with your hand, a lot of times they're too tight, you can use a filter wrench. Come with your filter replacement package. If it didn't, you can get one at your hardware store. They're really cheap. Or you can use a strap wrench if you've got one. If you've got a strap wrench, you probably know how to use it, but you just wrap this around and you can unscrew the filter. So let's go ahead and take off the filter housing and we'll replace the first filter. There we go. Alright, and before I unscrew it all the way, I'm going to tilt it back up. And we'll just unscrew this. Alright, some water came out. I'm going to have to dry that up. Okay, so here's the old filter. It's pretty bad. I don't know if it's ever been replaced. Here's the new one, bright white. That's what it's supposed to look like. This is brown and gross, and I'm gonna have to clean the inside of the housing also, because there's a whole bunch of gunk in there. I recommend putting the old filter in a plastic bag and throwing it away. Alright, now that we have the housing cleaned, time to put the new filter in, and we just take this filter and we drop it right in, and then we can screw it back on here. And I can use the filter wrench to just make sure it's pretty tight. Okay, there we go. Alright, now to replace the next one. The filter in the next one's going to look a little bit different, but judging from the other one, it's probably going to be pretty dirty. There we go. Okay. Once it's loose, you want to stand it back up because water is going to come out as soon as you take it off. Alright, second one. And we'll see what this one looks like. Okay, the second one's not quite as bad, and that's to be expected, but it is still brown. And it's supposed to be this color, but that's why we're replacing them, right? So let's go ahead and open this one up. Alright, this is the new one, and we'll just slide it into the housing. Alright, that's the second filter in, and we're going to go ahead and screw it back into the RO system. Okay, and we'll use the wrench just to make sure it's tight. Alright, there we go. Alright, time for the third one. Excuse Riley in the background. Whoa, okay, I'll clean up that water. Okay, I'm gonna dump this. Okay, so by stage 3, the water's pretty clean. You can see this is the old filter and it still looks pretty good. I'm going to replace it anyway just to have brand new filters throughout the whole system. This is just like the second stage. Same filter. And it'll slide right in. Okay, screwing it back in. Now that all three pre-filters are replaced, it's time to replace this filter up here as well as the membrane right here. Now these are not that difficult to replace since everything is within arm's reach, and they're only connected by these quick connect joints. Sorry, I pointed there. These quick connect joints, and these are actually pretty easy to undo. So this is the membrane. This goes inside of this part right here, but we're going to do this part first, this filter first. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to remove it from here, and then we have this quick joint. There's a little ring that's right next to the tube where it goes in. It's gray on this particular one, and if you pull that down with your finger, you can just slide the tube right out. Okay. On this side, I'm just going to unscrew this. Okay. So I've disconnected this filter. This is the fourth filter. And as you can see, there's an arrow here telling you which direction the water flows. The water has to flow that direction on this particular RO system. So I'm going to unscrew this because this fitting has to go over onto the new filter. And we'll just replace this. I also have to unscrew the quick connect fitting here. You should be able to just do these by hand. They shouldn't be too tight. If you want, you can use some plumber grease on these. Okay, so here's the new one. And as you can see, it has a flow arrow as well, and it needs to flow that way. Okay. And I'll just screw this fitting onto the new one. Okay, there we go. And I'll do the same thing to the other side. The other side has these little plastic things. They're just like placeholders. And I'll screw this into place. So the membrane is inside of this housing here. I can pull these off so you can see it better. Inside this housing. Here's the new membrane. Alright, unscrewing the membrane housing was a little bit tough. Just had to break that seal. It actually took two of us to do it. The membrane is held in. There's two little rubber rings that hold it in. So you have to kind of wiggle it to get it out. But there we go. This is the old membrane. It's pretty disgusting. And we will put the new membrane in. Those are the two rubber rings I was talking about. New membrane. Now you don't really want to touch this with your hands. Touching the ends is okay, but try to avoid touching this part. And then we'll screw this back on top. Okay, now that that's on, we can start reassembling the RO system. And we're gonna put the membrane back in place. Clip it into place just like that. And then we're going to have to reconnect these hoses. To reconnect this quick joint, you just slide the hose in and pull out, and then it stays tight. And pull out. Okay, the membrane housing is reconnected. Now we can put these back on for the other filter. Alright, and remember the other filter has the flow indicator. It needs to go this way, so right there. And then we have this pipe that was in the end of this filter with the quick joint. And we will just slide it in, pull it out so it's tight. And the main assembly is back together. Now we're going to have to put it back under the sink and put the tank back in place. Okay, I'm trying to give you guys a good view of where this goes. It slides right in here, so you want to make sure there's no kinks in your piping when you start to reconnect everything. Okay, all the quick joints are in place. Now it's time to put the tank back in. Okay, the tank is back in. As you can see, everything is connected up. Now we're going to hide all the pipes underneath the sink. Make sure the tank ball valve is turned back on. That's the valve that's on top of the tank. Make sure it's turned towards the direction of the flow of water. Now we can turn the water back on underneath the sink. When you replace all of the filtration and empty the tank of the RO system, you want to make sure that you flush 2 full tanks of water through the system before you actually use it for drinking water and whatnot. Generally, it takes about 10 to 15 minutes to completely drain the tank once it's full, but it takes 2 to 4 hours to fill the tank each time. So what you're going to do is you're going to wait 2 to 4 hours after you've turned the feed line on, wait for the tank to fill up, empty it for about 15 minutes till it just starts dripping, and turn it back off. Wait for the tank to refill, again 2 to 4 hours, empty it again. Again, you just want to flush the filters that you replaced. That's how you replace all the filters and repressurize the tank of an under-the-counter reverse osmosis system. Thank you for joining me for another problem solved.